Welcome everybody to the Irth Podcast. We're here today at the CGA conference, and I'm joined today by Misty Wise and Kevin Hopper. Thank you both for joining me. We wanted to take this moment to kind of sit down, have a very candid conversation off the cuff. We are in the middle of 50 and 5, which is the CGA initiative to reduce damages by 50% in 5 years. We're about what did we figure out? 4 years into it. So I'd like to start with you, Misty. Thinking in terms of 50 and 5, where do you think we are, and how do you think we're doing?
We're not exactly going in the direction that we had hoped. I think we still have a tremendous amount of work to do to get back on track, for lack of a better term. I know we're analyzing it a little bit differently and looking at some different data points around national statistics that kind of evaluate what that looks like, but collectively, I don't think we're super happy at where we are. I think we could do a lot better than where we are today with that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the 50 and 5 did some good things. It definitely got the conversation started. Like, we need to challenge the industry to do something. I just feel maybe we need to be putting some more guidance on exactly what that looks like.
Okay. And describe, if you could, for me, where you feel that the one call center in each state sits in that conversation, in so much as you're the conduit, you're the communication hub. You're not actually doing the work or submitting the excavation request. So when you think of it in terms of that, how do you feel that you play the role in your organization? Plays the role in that effort.
I think we play a vital role, but at the end of the day, it's not something that can be solved alone, right? This thing that is damage prevention requires all stakeholders to come to the plate, right? It can't just be solved by the one call center. The one call centers have to challenge each other. We have to step up and try to address the challenges to support those folks. We're really good at being able to bring people together to collaborate, but we also need to adapt. We can't just stay and continue to do the same things that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of our peer groups have taken some pretty big strides to try to move the needle, but there's a lot of laggers in what that looks like, and we're trying to kind of get some of the groups up to the same level of really addressing that at the board level. And, you know, it comes back to the states. I feel like it's a stopgap, whether you're looking at enforcement or you're looking at the board and what embodies what we have to kind of look to, you know, make successes in what we're doing at the state level. I feel like it's kind of a stopgate there. Like, we've got to be able to push the needle on each of our levels in each of those states to be able to see the collective rise to 50 and 5 and try to prevent damages from, you know, sliding backwards any further than they already have at this juncture.
Yeah, and I'd add that, you know, as the one call center, a lot of times when, you know, there's frustration in the system, it feels like 811, when you say 811, they're talking about the call center, but it's a process, right? There's every stakeholder's in this process, and yeah, we're the coordinator of where information gets processed and sent, but there's a whole bunch of other things that have to happen correctly in the system for it to work. You know, can we try to find ways to eliminate noise, to try to assist the processes and the pain points that we're hearing about? Sure, but at the end of the day, it really takes everybody willing to give something. We can't just all keep taking from the system and expect a different result.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single silver bullet either that we've all gone, oh, well, it's just this thing, or it's just these top 5 things for that matter, to say that it's going to move the needle across the board. I mean, the inertia of chaos is what it feels like we have coming back to us at the center saying, you know, we can fix things at the systematic level and try to do what we can to eliminate noise and address, you know, systematic implementations that provide better data, better tickets, better quality, whatever. But it takes all parties to participate in that. You know, you tell an excavator he doesn't have a quality ticket and he ignores that. Now I'm getting calls from the locator explaining, I can't locate this because of, you know, this, and this. And members are just kind of in the middle of handing off whatever that, you know, risk and liability looks like to another third party. And it's just this spin the wheel. And it feels a lot of times like we're stuck in quicksand. Like, how do we get to the source of where the most impact can happen? And quite frankly, I think a lot of that belongs at the member level, because the vast majority of the operators or the excavators we have working in our state, whether it's a locator or a third-party contractor doing excavation work, they all report to the same organization and the same group that does have the capabilities to make impact, but they can't bury their head in the sand. They've got to actually be part of that conversation and part of the actual solution.
Yeah. Shift gears just a bit. I think in terms of we're in 2026 and say 15, 16 years ago. So kind of looking back and thinking in terms of, 2010, what's changed? What's changed since in the last 15, 16 years?
Technology.
Can you expand on that?
I mean, technology is moving faster than people's mindset can. I think that's the struggle, right? Like we all say, oh, well, it's pie in the sky, it's AI, it's this, it's that. Those all sound great in theory, but you have to be able to change people's mindsets and how they utilize the tools to benefit the rest of the industry rather than just putting a new tool in front of them saying, there you go, there's the pie in the sky. It's the mindset that I think is the struggle of, take ownership, get involved in the process, stop pointing fingers, let's get to the actual inertia of how we can solve problems. And we have the technology tools to actually do it, but we have to be able to implement them. We have to be able to address it. And sadly, legislation impedes some of that at some point, but there's a lot of stuff that we can do at the one call center level, with some autonomy to do that does integrate good tools into the mix, that doesn't require any of those roadblocks with law change, procedures within the call center. It might come through the board of directors. The technology's there. We just got to get it out there to some of the folks and actually get them to apply it and use it.
Yeah. Same question.
Well, yeah, I'm somebody who, I think in my career, one of the big things that we've tried to do is implement technology that facilitates a more efficient, better process, right? Those kind of things. I'm not sure that technology, it's there, right? Everything that could make this process better is already there and available. The problem is that until we can get people willing to adopt and change, and instead we're consistently protecting our own little edge of this piece of the pie. And unfortunately, until we're willing to say, I might have to give up something to fix it. Do we want to save lives? Do we want to make this process better? And until we do that, we're going to continue to cycle and serve because I'm only going to make or implement this piece because I hold it. Somewhere along the line, somebody's got to let go of something.
Well, our industry is driven by money at the end of the day, right? Like we all say, and I know we're here for safety, right? And maybe the collective at CGA is here for safety, but when it comes at the CEO and C-suite level, the struggle is always going to come down to a financial gain or loss and what that looks like. And I think that's where the conversation starts to pivot in the wrong direction as to what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day. Safety is no longer at the top of the list. It's, are we marketable? Are we financially in a good place? And okay, yeah, we'll definitely adopt some safety protocol around what that looks like, but everybody's here to make money at the end of the day. And it definitely takes away from the mission that we have in order to keep people safe.
Yeah. I spent some time on the expo hall floor yesterday and I talked to different stakeholder groups, contract locators, owner operators, one call centers. I heard a varying number of responses to a pretty interesting question I thought I posed to you as well. So speaking from your respective position there with your own one call center, if you had an open letter to say, please, excavator contractor community, please consider the following, because it will be beneficial to the industry and what we're doing as a collective moving forward. And Kevin, I'll start with you.
I guess if I'm going to plead to the excavating community, right, it's like I get where they sit in the situation, right? When you're the last piece in the channel and you're relying on all of these things to happen, they got to happen for you. But at the end of the day, we're all damage prevention. It's not a unique system, right? It's a shared responsibility. We all have to play in it. And the problem, we've now taken profitability to basically become me, right? And so they're overwhelming the system and not necessarily playing nice. And like the positive from this standpoint is we've got more excavators engaged in the CGA than we've ever had, right? There's a voice here. And if they're willing to play and do the things that we need to do, and by and large, you talk to a lot of them, they are, but you can't go in and put 500 tickets in for a month and expect that you're going to get the result. And then every other excavator is doing the same thing because they're trying to work. So it's like, how can we all play in the sandbox? So I guess my thing is like, be engaged, understand the process, and play in the sandbox with some I guess you'd say, neighborly considerations, right? Like the system was built, when it was first built, if you think about who it was the locator who worked for the utility company, right? And he cared about making sure the marks and protecting the asset. He was there, and now it's kind of a shift transfer. And I'm not saying the locate community doesn't care. I'm just saying it's different. It's you had Bob, who lived in the neighborhood, who worked for the utility company, who now had a vested interest in that. And we've kind of, as an industry, it's grown. I mean, it's immense. You talked about where we were. We're almost on the 20-year anniversary of 811. 811 was a giant shift in the industry when you talk about what it did to ticket volumes across the state. We were begging people, like our damage, and still no call damage is a problem, but at the end of the day, like we are now, that to me, like getting people to know about 811 and doing that, that's not our biggest challenge. It's playing nice in the sandbox. So it's like, be engaged, understand how your behavior impacts the system. And I think when the excavating community does that, it will be a step in the direction, right? We all have to give. I keep saying that, like somebody's got to give up something. Well, the excavating community has to give up something so that we can all play within the system.
Interesting. Misty, I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm going to shift the stakeholder group to the owner operators, the facility owners. So if you had to finish this sentence, in order for us to move forward, be more efficient in the future, please consider the following.
Take ownership of all of what you're putting out into our, from a one-call standpoint, take ownership of all of the work that you're putting out there, right? Like from infancy, a lot of these operators are handing off work to other groups, but they are actually the cog that starts the wheel, right? Like we have a lot of infrastructure bill going on at the federal, state, and other levels, but a lot of times we've got independent build work that's going on as well as all of this other, funding that's coming down the channels. And what I see is operators knowing that that's part of their project, giving no upfront visibility to the stakeholders that they work in and around every day. And then it further translates to now the locators don't have the ability to go out there and do this work on time because they have no visibility to it, nor resources because they weren't aware of it, down to the excavator that is actually doing work on behalf of the same human is still struggling to get the work done that wasn't forecasted for all of these other people to do. I feel like they are very much the start of the wheel in a lot of cases, not all cases, but a lot of it. And I think those folks need to get some visibility. We've created tools all the time to give them visibility to what that looks like technology-wise. Use the tools, focus on what that looks like. Passing that buck down the river doesn't make it any easier for the guys that are trying to complete that work, whether they're a locator or an excavator on either side of that. And I think that would honestly change like a big bulk of what that work volume is. I mean, 60% of the work, I just looked at it this morning, we have 97,000 active tickets in the system. 60% of those tickets are all utility work, or utility excavators doing work on behalf of an operator. Whether some of that's maintenance work, it's not all large-scale build, but just that 60% would make a huge impact.
Yeah, well, and think about your answer, though, to that question, right? If you break it down, you can't just say facility operator, because your answer changes if I say utility type, right? Your ask of the gas operator might be completely different than what our ask is going to be of the fiber group, right?
Fair.
And then within that realm, you've got your big fiber companies, and then you've got all these rural broadband companies that are coming in, and they have no idea what the process is that they signed up for, right? They've got BEAD money, they've got,
Timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they don't recognize what it's going to take to maintain that, locates, participation in the one call. So again, water system operators, right? We've got infrastructure being replaced for these water systems. They're not mapping it. Like we are not improving our maps for these water systems. They're identifying what type of facility they have, whether they got cast iron in the ground or replacements, but we're going back and going to leave the same problem after once you identify and replace it. It's like, why aren't we using modern technologies there? And so the ask, in my opinion, the ask changes. You can't just lump facility operator. The ask changes based on the industry or the facility that they operate.
That's fair.
So also thinking along those same lines, when I started in this industry like a couple of weeks ago. No, but when I started in this industry, a lot of the owner-operators located their own facilities. And the concept of contract locators doing the work for the utilities is, that for me is one of those wow, they're doing most of the work now. Same question, kind of, dear contract locators, help us out in the future by considering the following. What do you think something the contract locate community could do to positively impact or help out with some efficiencies moving forward?
I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I honestly think, and I'm going to use fiber as the example because he's right. Like there is a different ask for different groups based on whatever the inertia of crazy is in each one. But specifically with the communication groups, and I can speak to that because I've worked in that realm for 20 years. Mm-hmm. We put these bids out at the operator level to try to get the best pricing we can. And what I see is contract locating is obviously less expensive in some capacity. They're transferring risk. There's a lot of opportunities for an operator to kind of gain some financial, and resources back at the operator level. But what keeps happening is we get these lowball contracts. Locators aren't getting paid what they should be, but that's a choice that they made in order to get the bid in some cases. Mm-hmm. And so if they just went Band of Brothers tomorrow, let's just like pie in the sky, they go Band of Brothers tomorrow and say, you know what, we're no longer, nobody, all of us are on accord, we're not going to accept this any longer because we know we can't do it for that amount and be good at it and be safe and make sure the integrity of the facility is intact. And if they actually did that, it probably won't happen, but if it ever happened that way, it's almost like an opportunity to revisit building a contract and ensuring that the integrity of the facility is not being compromised at every turn because we're lowballing what the bid is because we can't do it for that price. They'll tell you they can't do it for that, but they're doing it, and they're finding ways to be innovative and kind of skirt around some of the volume of work that's going on in order to do that, and it's counterintuitive and productive to everything that we're trying to achieve from a safety standpoint.
I mean, from my standpoint, it's going back to a basic framework, right? Locating needs to become less of a output and more of something that ends up with the result as intended, right? And so, what's happening today, to her point, is you bid and lowball and do these kind of things, and then what we're doing is we're putting solutions in, right? And so we talked about technology being a solution. It's also a big detriment to what we're dealing with today, right? We're screening out tickets. We're finding ways to leverage technology to try to build what we're calling efficiencies. Are efficiencies, does anybody say, does efficient make it safer? Right? We have to go back to the number one thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that somebody can dig, go home safely, and get the safe marks on the ground. So to me, that's the output, the desire that you'd like to see.
Well, I think we'd have more trust in the system, right? Like you asked the excavator question. I'd love to go back to him and say, hey, we've got all these tools. You can extend work dates out. You can do this. And, we've done some things that actually incorporate that to not put all the tickets out on the same day that they're called in, 3 full business days from that date, and giving them an opportunity to say, this is when I'm going to go do my work. And we saw good feedback from that initially. And then as soon as the trust factor stopped happening in the way that it should have, we're kind of reverted right back to that. So we can do all we want to do with building tools and efficiencies and opportunities to make this better, give them some upfront forecasting and I'm not going to work in 3 days, I'm actually going to work a week from now, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And then we find that the trust factor is not delivered again, and operators revert back to creating the same anomalies that we had before. And I can't blame them for that, right? Like they have a job to do at the end of the day. They got timelines they got to get to, but it continues to figure out ways to game the system. And no matter what we put into our system to make it easier and more effective for everyone, we get back to there's just not a lot of trust in this industry across the board with all the stakeholders in order to ensure that what he's saying, and we just actually get a safe site, paint on the ground, and I can go do my job. And it's just frustrating to keep it watch the spinning wheel, and nobody's really moving. It's just a spin, and we keep winding back in the same place no matter what we implement systematically.
Yeah, but to what you said earlier, because when I think about it, sometimes I think about a tug of war that actually has 3 different directions they're going, the contractors, the owner-operators, and then the folks who are actually doing the work, whether it's locators in general or contract locators. So they're all going this way as hard as they can, and that where that progress happens, I don't know that it happens. I also think in terms of, I feel like this industry, probably like all industries, has been designed around meeting the lowest common denominator, right? So when we started, we were trying to get folks off of fax machines. We were trying to get
We
folks
still
off.
have some folks on those, by the way. I'm just putting that out there.
Right. And then we've even softwared that, right?
Yeah.
We've even technology that out of play so that we just send it to an application and then they can dial the fax number. So when you think of all the people moving all the different directions, I like what you said earlier about we're going to have to give together, but then we're also still serving that lowest common denominator. You ruined my thing because I was going to ask for a silver bullet.
I wish I had one. If I
there
had one, I
was,
would have
but
loaded the gun 3
some
times
of those
by now.
contributing factors, because I think what I also just heard Misty say is that she's pushing for a minimum wage for a contract locate minimum wage, which to the point that I've heard Kevin talk about in the past, he sometimes has to compete with, Target has raised their logistics warehouse number. So I've lost 2 or 3 staff members there. Staffing is an indicated problem from the contract locating community. We saw that detailed in a letter from NOLCA this week. Also, that letter from NOLCA carried a lot of discussion points. You're laughing. Did I say something?
No, I'm just.
Well, but the discussion points are good.
It was a brash paper.
Well, the discussion points are good, but we still need action, right?
Yeah.
You told us all the things in that paper that you're not going to do. But remember, you got to come back and give something. What are you going to give, right? What are you going to give instead of just saying you're not going to do these things, right? And I agree with the things that they shouldn't do. I think the paper created a lot of great conversation. I got I think some stones maybe even thrown at me for this suggestion, but I was like,
You definitely got
yeah, I
stones thrown
definitely
at this
did.
one.
And I don't mean it in the capacity of to make it sound like you have to tell me all your boots on the ground. But if locators had capacity limits, if you shared those capacity limits, we could help to regulate locates so that we know that this is the max amount that can happen there. But capacity has to meet demand. You have to at least be on the average with what capacity is. You can't be down three people and say my capacity is this. That's not fair to the excavator downstream, right? Now you're only going to staff to the lowest common denominator and be like, well, they're going to rate limit me, right? Now I'm more profitable. I'm still got that. So again, it's like, how much are you willing to give so that you can take and we can all thrive in this system?
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with what was in the paper either. I do think that, one of the things that they addressed in there was ensuring that we had locator and excavator representation on boards. I do think that's a big deal. I think limiting the size and scope on the ticket is at least reasonable, and creating a structure around what balance looks like for them to be able to get out to the job site. So I think a lot of what was in there are things we need to look at as an industry, but I don't disagree. Everyone wants to, we had the excavators do their paper, right? Like we're getting rocks thrown at us in all directions, and we're obviously sitting on boards that contain all of the individuals that are trying to, move the needle. It's just difficult to get everyone on the same page at the same time. And I think that's why you see a lot of groups, good, bad, or indifferent, pushing legislative change to try to change something as a collective, as a group, in agreement. Even if it doesn't help, if we don't try, we're never going to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and I think there was a specific ask of the one-call industry in that. The locator is underrepresented on one-call boards, right? And in New York currently, we don't have a locator on our board. I'm more than willing to do it. But somewhere along the line, so again, making sure that when you come onto the board, there are challenges, right? The locator has to work on behalf of the locator industry. It can't be personal serving, right? And and that's with any stakeholder on a board, right? That's the challenge that you have. The reason that the one call center exists is to make it so that all stakeholders can participate. We have a process that works for everybody. And as soon as you come in and you're trying to, and I'm not saying that that's the case, but you need to make sure that you're not in it for personal interest. The one call center is really meant to make sure that the process flows.
Well, they also need to take off their company hat, right? This isn't about how you're going to make money at the end of the day.
Right.
Board members have to come in even at the operator and excavator level and do the same thing. This is about damage prevention. It's about how do we make it better? How do we work together? Right. It's not about how do I make myself more profitable tomorrow, or how do I game the system or get the law, or whatever elements of procedures we're trying to do to facilitate what I want today. It's about everyone that's involved.
And like I said, like when you're gonna, if you want one call center representation, right? I want to make sure that representative is somebody who can move the needle in that company, right? Don't just say you want to sit on the board and tell me about the locate issues and the volume's too high and your ticket qualities are bad. I want somebody who's willing to say, we're willing to try this. We're going to share capacity. We're going to share capacity, and we're going to try to work together to do this. But you need to be somebody who can make that decision and move that for the company if you're going to be on a leadership role.
Good, excellent point. One I agree with wholeheartedly. Kevin Hopper, you are on the Common Ground Alliance Board of Directors, correctly? What representing?
I'm at large right now, which just means I still represent the one call group, but it's a at large seat, and I'm currently the vice chairman.
Okay, and how long have you been on the board at Common Ground Alliance?
7 years.
I'm gonna this is a personal question.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to get involved with the Common Ground Alliance and to get involved at the board?
Well, I mean, it's I think if you're in the industry, this is the place where all the stakeholders get together. This is where we share ideas. I think it's the place where we challenge others to do better. You know, there's you go to presentations today, and then you see side conversations happening relative to, well, they're doing that in that state. We need to be doing it here, and that's the best thing that can happen for the industry, right? We have to challenge each other and push. And so to be able to be a part of the CGA and hopefully to continue to try to push the industry to make changes and make advances in damage prevention, it'd be great. It's funny because we're on 20 years of 811, and I realized that I've been here long enough to celebrate a milestone. It's like, oh, I'm no longer the young guy in one call. Like, I've been here long enough. I've seen it, and you know, we're here at the CGA conference, and in some aspects, you're like, it's a little Groundhog Day sometimes, right? We need to try to how are we going to advance these situations? How are we going to move the needle? And I think we're on a good framework, right? We want to see action now, but I think identifying what works, how do we make the data work for us to sell the story of what actually works, and then when there's a deficiency in a state law, why is that a deficiency, right? We've made generalizations like, and we've tried to do changes, right? And everything is it's like a hypothesis, right? We're going to go out and we're going to try to figure out that we think this is the issue, right? Mm-hmm. I can give an example. Misty's working diligently right now on implementing a project ticket. And the industry tells me that project tickets are going to be the best thing for reducing waste in the system and being able to coordinate. Well, I want to see the metrics on it, right? Like, are we going in and putting Band-Aid on something again that really you have an input, a locate request, and an output where there's paint on the ground so the excavator can dig? How much of that is the problem, or are we, again, reworking something that I want to put quantitative metrics behind it and get a good sense of how effective it is?
Misty Wise, you're also on the board of directors and you represent the 811 stakeholder group, correct?
Correct.
Same question for you. Why was it important for you to get involved?
I mean, I've been in this industry a long time. I was on the other side of the fence as an operator at some point, and I've been around the locating and excavating side of it, so I feel like I have a pretty good gauge of it. You know, like you guys, I've been in this industry that long. I want to make an impact, and I feel like CGA is the place to try to make that impact. I mean, obviously, we're all each doing it at the state level to the best of our ability, but you know, this is the place, this is the playground where we kind of all come together and try to figure what that looks like out. I'm very passionate about what this is. I mean, I've seen the bad that can come from not doing it the right way, and all sides of what that looks like, from a locator to a operator to an excavator. So I think it's just more of a passion. I want to leave this place better than what it was when I left, and there's no better place and no better seat to sit on than as part of CGA to try to do that.
I want to thank my guests, Misty Wise, Executive Director, South Carolina 811, Kevin Hopper, Executive Director, UDIG New York. I've been CJ Kowalski. Thank you for joining the Irth Podcast. Thank you both for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.